It started with a voicemail. Not the kind you expect, not someone breathing heavily or an accidental but dial from the back seat of an Uber. This one was deliberate, calm, precise. It came in at 2:47 a.m. I was asleep, obviously, but when I rolled over around 6 and saw a missed call from a blocked number, followed by a 15-second voicemail, my chest felt like it skipped something. The message was simple. A man's voice, level, slow, like he was reading from a script he'd memorized perfectly. "You're not crazy. Room upstairs tonight, 8:30. That was it. No name, no context, not even a sign-off. It didn't sound threatening. It sounded like an invitation or a warning. For the next few hours, my mind kept circling it like a bird over roadkill. I didn't delete it. I listened to it again and again, and then I did something I hadn't done in over a year. I looked at her phone. I'd tried before. She changed her passcode, said it was because of work confidentiality, something about clients and NDAs. I didn't push then, but this morning, I watched her unlock it while she was brushing her teeth. 11:47, her brother's birthday. Rookie mistake. I remembered it instantly. She left it on the nightstand. I waited for the shower to start running before I picked it up. The messages weren't there, at least not in the usual places, but there was a hidden folder in her gallery. It wasn't locked. Maybe she thought I'd never dare look inside. There were screenshots of her conversations, Instagram DMs, a few pictures, none of them explicit, but all of them telling her in the mirror, biting her lip with a shirt that wasn't mine draped over her shoulder. A message from someone saved under the name, Amelia. "I can't stop thinking about last night. When she left the room, I thought you'd follow." I stared at the words until they stopped making sense. I didn't confront her, not that day. I went to work, answered emails, laughed at 2 jokes I didn't hear. Then, around 4 p.m., my buddy Trevor called. He said there was a get-together happening later, something small. He said Ashley was in on it. That it was for me. A celebration. Promotions and all that. My spine straightened. I said I'd be there. Of course I'd be there. But I didn't show up at 8:30. I came early. 7:42, parked 3 houses down. Walked in through the backyard because I knew the gate never locked. No lights were on downstairs, but the upstairs window, the one in Trevor's guest room, glowed soft and amber. Music played low from a speaker somewhere, some R&B track that kept repeating one line. I crept up the back stairs, quiet, careful, the way you do when you're hoping to be wrong but know you're not. Then I saw it through the barely open door, a slice of skin, her leg hooked over someone else's, a man's hand gripping her waist. Her face turned toward the mirror, but her eyes, they weren't even closed. She was smiling, not sheepishly, not guiltily, like she was exactly where she wanted to be. I didn't barge in, not at first. I opened the door slowly, let it creak, let it speak for me. Her eyes met mine in the mirror. That smile? Gone. Vanished like it had never existed. She froze completely still. He didn't notice at first. He kept moving, kept whispering something to her I didn't catch. Then he turned, saw me, and his mouth opened, but nothing came out. I walked into the room. No shouting, no fists. I just said the words that had been growing in my chest since the voicemail. "So, this is where honesty goes to die." The room felt completely silent. Even the music had the decency to pause. Ashley pulled the sheet over herself like modesty suddenly mattered. Still, she didn't say anything. Not a single word, not, "Daniel, wait," or, "I can explain." She just looked at me, eyes wide, like she'd seen a ghost. Like the reality of me standing there didn't fit into the script she'd written for her evening. "The guy?" He got out of bed, stammering something useless. I held up a hand. "Don't. This isn't your scene anymore." Then I turned to her. My voice was steady, not loud, but every syllable landed with weight. "You were supposed to be planning a celebration. You were supposed to be proud of me. You were supposed to be my wife." She opened her mouth, closed it, and then she laughed, a small, bitter sound, like something cracked inside her. She wrapped the sheet tighter around herself and muttered, "You were never supposed to come early." And that was the moment something inside me stopped bleeding and started burning. I didn't leave right away. I stood there in the doorway while Ashley sat on the edge of the bed, still wrapped in that sheet, like it was armor. Like it could somehow make her less exposed than she already was. The guy, I still didn't know his name and didn't care, had retreated to the far wall, grabbing his shirt off the floor like it was going to shield him from the humiliation dripping down the walls of that room. "Why?" I asked. Not yelled. Not accused. Just asked, like a question I'd ask a stranger on a train, just passing time between stations. She blinked once, twice, then rolled her eyes like I was the one being unreasonable. "Don't do that," she said, her voice low and bored. "Don't play the victim." My jaw tightened, but I didn't move. If I opened my mouth again, I wasn't sure what would come out. She went on, almost robotic. "I didn't plan this. It just happened. You weren't around, not really. You think because you show up that's enough? You stopped being curious about me a long time ago. Everything was routine. You do your work, you ask if I want dinner, you sit on the couch, you fall asleep early. And I'm supposed to pretend that's a life?" It wasn't just the words. It was the way she said them, like she'd practiced. Like this speech had been folded neatly in the back of her mind, waiting for a moment like this to be aired out. She wasn't apologizing. She was justifying. "You could have talked to me," I said, stepping into the room now, not even looking at the guy anymore. "You could have said any of that. You could have left." She shrugged. "Maybe I didn't want to." That landed differently, harder, more real than any insult she could have thrown. Not, "I couldn't." Not, "I didn't know how." Not, "I didn't want to." "And him?" I asked, finally turning to look at the man who watched all of this unfold like a background actor who just realized he had a line. "You think he knows the version of you that breaks things for sport?" "I'm still right here," he muttered. I looked at him like I was seeing him for the first time, a nobody in designer jeans and cologne thick enough to choke a horse. I gave him the smallest nod, like he finally got the role he signed up for, the disposable one. Then I turned back to Ashley. "Is this it then? Is this who you are now?" And again that same shrug, that cold little gesture that said everything. Everything. "I don't know. Maybe I was always this. Maybe you just stopped looking close enough." There it was. No breakdown, no tears, no groveling apology begging me not to go. Just a woman sitting on a bed in someone else's house, daring me to see her as the villain, not denying it, not deflecting, owning it. I took one last look around that room, the framed photo of Trevor and his dog, the half-empty wine glass on the dresser, the clock blinking 8:16, not even time for the party yet. Then I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the small gift box. A stupid idea, really. Something I'd picked up because I thought maybe tonight would bring us closer again. A watch she'd mentioned wanting. One, something sleek, minimalist. I dropped it on the floor in front of her. "Might as well keep it," I said. "You clearly have time for other people." Then I walked out. No slamming doors, no threats, just silence. As I stepped down the hallway, I heard movement behind me, but not her. Him, probably, trying to say something. Maybe trying to make himself matter again. I didn't stop. I made it all the way down the stairs, opened the front door, and stepped out into the night. The backyard was lit now. People were arriving. Voices drifted up in pieces. Laughs, cheers, someone shouting my name, calling for me to come down and be surprised. I slipped through the side gate. No one saw me leave. No one, except Trevor. He stood near the driveway, holding a beer. Confused at first, then alarmed when he saw my face. "What happened?" he asked. I looked at him for a long second, then just said, "You invited the wrong guy to the party." And I kept walking. I didn't go home that night. Didn't even consider it. I drove nowhere in particular, just pointed the car away from that house and let the city bleed past the windows like a movie I wasn't watching. The streetlights turned everything amber. I didn't turn on music, didn't make any calls. My phone buzzed once, twice, then went still. Her name didn't pop up. Not once. The truth was, I didn't want her to call. I didn't want the sound of her voice slithering through the speaker, trying to spin what I saw with my own eyes. I didn't want the manufactured tears, the "you don't understand" monologues, the exhausting mental gymnastics she was probably already choreographing in that snake pit of a brain. I ended up in a parking lot outside a diner I hadn't been to in years. The kind of place where the coffee tastes like burnt hope and the waitresses call you sweetheart, whether you're smiling or dying inside. I sat in the booth furthest from the window and ordered nothing. Just sat there with the menu open, pretending to read, waiting for my heartbeat to slow down. About 20 minutes in, I looked at my phone, one new message. Not from her. It was Trevor. Man, what the hell happened? You good? Ashley came down like nothing happened, said you forgot something at home, then left. I stared at the screen. My stomach flipped, not from surprise, but from the sudden rush of clarity. She was already rewriting the story. Of course she was. To everyone downstairs, she'd just been upstairs freshening up. Maybe changing. Maybe lighting a candle. And I was the idiot who forgot the beer or left the oven on or had some emergency at work. She'd walked down the stairs, smiled that sugar-coated serpent smile, and carried on like nothing happened. Like her husband hadn't just walked in on her, wrapped around another man. She hadn't even waited 10 minutes to flip the script. I didn't reply to Trevor, not yet. I needed to think. I left the diner around midnight. Still didn't go home. Instead, I drove to my brother's place across town. Haven't talked to him in months. Not because of any bad blood. Life just happened. I showed up on his doorstep looking like a man who'd been hit by something invisible but heavy. He didn't ask questions. Just opened the door wider and nodded toward the couch. The next morning, I showered, borrowed a hoodie, drank coffee that didn't taste like regret, and then I finally opened her texts. There were 3. Ashley, we need to talk. Please. Ashley, I didn't want it to happen like that. Ashley, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Call me. That last one? That was the real her, the mask slipping again. I was blowing it out of proportion. Of course I was. She cheated in a stranger's guest room, 30 minutes before a surprise party for me. She let people clink glasses in my name, while she wiped someone else's fingerprints off her skin. And I was the problem. I didn't respond. Instead, I did something else. I texted Trevor. Me, hey, you got security cams at your place? Trevor, yeah, why? Me, need footage from last night. Front door, back door, guest room, hallway if you have it. Trevor, you sure? Me, dead sure. There was a pause. Trevor, okay, I'll pull it. I had a plan now. Not for revenge. Not for theatrics. For truth. If Ashley wanted to lie to everyone about what went down, I'd hand them the tape and walk away. No fighting, no public shaming. Just facts. Let the silence between frames do the talking. Let the truth echo louder than anything she could manufacture. The footage came through that afternoon. Trevor sent a link, private, encrypted, said he didn't watch it himself. I appreciated that, even if I didn't believe him. He'd always been curious by nature, the kind of guy who shakes every Christmas gift weeks before it's under the tree. Still, he respected me enough to pretend. The video started at 7:36 p.m. There she was, Ashley, walking in the front door, wearing a dress I hadn't seen before. Red. Tight. Too tight for someone supposedly just helping set up a party. She greeted Trevor's girlfriend, handed off a bottle of wine, smiled like her conscience was clean. They laughed, toasted, she kissed someone on the cheek. I don't know who. Then, and this part hit hard, she looked around like she was checking for exits or entries. I don't know, but there was a moment where her eyes lingered near the front door, just long enough to wonder if maybe she knew I might come early. And then, she disappeared up the stairs. At 7:44 p.m., a man entered through the back door, hoodie, baseball cap, head down. I recognized him instantly. Not from real life. From the photos in her hidden gallery. The guy she said was a client once? Someone she was mentoring, she said. He needed help with marketing. That he was young, didn't know how to pitch himself. That I didn't need to worry. He was harmless. Yeah, at 7:46, they met in the hallway upstairs. There was no hesitation, no awkwardness, no checking to see if the coast was clear. She grabbed his hand. He kissed her neck. They slipped into the guest room like they'd done it 100 times. That was the real Ashley. The one that never showed up in dinner conversations or Instagram captions. That woman knew exactly what she was doing, and she wasn't sorry. The camera caught it all. Not graphic details. Trevor had angled it away from the room itself, but you could see the door, her hand pulling it closed, the outline of movement, the shadow on the wall, the timing. Then 8:12. Me. I walked into frame from the side, my expression blank, like I already knew. Like I'd already accepted it before even seeing it. I stepped toward the door, pushed it open, froze. And then I said it. You could hear it faintly on the hallway mic. So, this is where honesty goes to die. Trevor had cut the file there. Didn't need more. Didn't want more. I downloaded it, saved it to 3 separate drives. Not for revenge, not to send to her family or friends or coworkers, but because I needed proof that I hadn't imagined the moment my marriage died. I needed something that confirmed reality. Something no amount of gaslighting or manipulation could erase. At 5:03 p.m., Ashley called. I answered. Silence on her end for a full 5 seconds. Then so you've seen it? Every second she sighed, not a sad sigh, a calculated sigh, like she was lining up her next move. Well, if you're going to send that around, just know you'll destroy more than me. I almost laughed. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you, she said, her voice calm again. You think this is black and white? It's not. People find out, you'll look weak. You stayed with a woman who didn't want you. You didn't leave the first time things cracked. You think you're the victim, but you're not. You're just the guy who didn't notice the world changing around him. There it was. The final form. Not guilt, not shame, just strategy. Ashley didn't want forgiveness. She wanted control, and when she couldn't have that, she wanted leverage. But I was already steps ahead. I'm not sending anything, I said. I'm not going to war with you. I don't need to. I have the truth. You have your performance. Let's see which one outlasts the other. She didn't reply right away. Then so what now? You filing papers? Already started. Another pause. Wow, she said. You always were good at cutting people off. No, I said quietly. I was just good at believing they'd never cut me first. Then I hung up. 15 minutes later, I packed a duffel bag and returned to the house. Not for her, for me. I walked through the front door, grabbed my laptop, passport, documents, and a few essentials. The air still smelled like her perfume, that same vanilla and sandalwood mix she wore every day. But now, it felt suffocating. In the bedroom, I found something I hadn't expected, a note, folded, tucked under my pillow like a sick joke. It said, if you ever stop being angry long enough to understand, maybe you'll see it wasn't about him. It was about me needing more. No apology. No name. Just a final attempt at making the story hers again. I left the note on the kitchen counter next to her favorite mug, and I walked out. The next few days blurred, not because I was sad. I wasn't, not in the way people expect. There were no sleepless nights crying into shirts she used to wear, no dramatic rainstorms outside my window mirroring the storm inside me. What I felt was sharper, colder. It was a kind of grief that doesn't beg to be comforted. It just waits for clarity, for reckoning. I stayed with my brother for 2 days. He didn't pry. Just handed me a beer every night, and kept the living room TV on dumb action movies that didn't require thinking. We didn't talk about Ashley. We didn't need to. I think the silence between us understood more than words ever could. Meanwhile, Ashley kept texting. Not apologies. She pivoted to negotiation. Ashley, we need to keep this clean. No one needs to know everything. Ashley, we can tell people we're separating over differences. It'll be easier. Ashley, my parents are asking questions. Can you just not tell them yet? Ashley, please don't make this uglier than it has to be. Every message like a little PR release, carefully worded, carefully curated. Not for my benefit, but for hers. She wasn't worried about the truth. She was terrified of the optics. I didn't answer. Then came the real surprise. Saturday morning, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Unknown. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. I was told you'd understand if I said this. Red dress, 7:44 p.m. My blood chilled. I called the number immediately. A woman picked up. Her voice was steady, older, mature, but not shaken. She introduced herself as Maya. She was the girlfriend, no, fiancé, of the guy I'd caught with Ashley. His name was Nathan, apparently, and Maya had been engaged to him for 8 months. She'd gotten suspicious after noticing strange behavior, random coldness, changed routines, missing receipts. He told her he was working on a marketing deal with a new client. A woman. Confident. Married. Safe. Ashley. Maya had done some digging, found a second phone he kept hidden in his gym bag, read the messages, recognized the name Ashley immediately from tagged photos on social media. Then, by some incredible cosmic alignment, she'd overheard him on a call the day after the party, talking about a close call and how, thank God, Daniel didn't go nuclear. That's when she reached out to me. I didn't know what to say at first. I just sat there on my brother's porch, phone pressed to my ear, hearing another stranger's life unravel in parallel to mine, a mirror version of betrayal playing on a screen next to mine. You have footage? She asked. I do. I don't need it, she said quickly. I just needed to know I wasn't crazy. I needed to know there was another person out there who saw them for what they are. There was a pause. One of those heavy ones. Then she said something that stopped my thoughts mid-sentence. I'm not mad at you, and I'm not even that mad at him anymore. I'm just exhausted with pretending that loyalty means the same thing to everyone. I let that hang in the air for a bit before finally replying. I get it. We didn't say goodbye. We just ended the call. Felt cleaner that way. Later that day, I emailed Ashley. Simple, direct, legal. Subject line, separation terms. Message, attached are the documents. I've gone through your requests and made reasonable adjustments. You can have the car. I'll keep the apartment. I've already moved my things. I don't need anything else. Let's make this fast, quiet. I'm done pretending. She replied 2 hours later. No thank you, no emotion. Just agreed, I'll sign Monday. I sat back in my chair and stared at that line for a long time. It was ending exactly the way she wanted, cold, transactional, surgically detached. But the difference was, this time I wasn't in denial. I saw her clearly, fully. No more illusions. No more hoping she'd become the woman I once believed she was. She wasn't broken. She wasn't lost. She wasn't confused. She chose this. And now, finally, so did I. Monday came, and so did the meeting. Neutral location. Her lawyer's office. Sleek, clean, forgettable, like everything she now seemed to gravitate toward. A place with no memory, no warmth. Just contracts and pen clicks, and soft jazz playing too low in the background to be anything but noise. I arrived 10 minutes early. Not to impress, to control the tempo. I wanted to watch her walk in. Wanted to see how she'd carry herself now that there were no curtains left to pull. She came in exactly on time, hair perfect, face made up just enough to look effortless, wearing a cream-colored coat I bought her last Christmas, the one she said made her feel elegant. I remember she used to twirl in it in front of the mirror. That day, she wore it like armor. She didn't look surprised to see me already sitting there. Just offered a small, polite nod and sat across from me, like we were strangers waiting for a delayed flight. Her lawyer, a guy named Jacob, was young, polished, and had that tight-lipped smirk of someone who probably thrived off handling messy breakups for the upper middle class. He opened his folder, slid a copy toward me, and launched into the usual legalese. I didn't listen. My eyes were on Ashley. She didn't look at me once. Not even when we got to the asset clauses. Not even when the lawyer mentioned the phrase, no-fault dissolution, the polite legal euphemism that lets people pretend they didn't shatter someone. I interrupted. I want to add something. Jacob blinked. Excuse me? Ashley finally looked up. I leaned forward, calm, quiet, dead steady. I want an amendment in writing. I keep the dog. A flicker, the first crack in her mask. She hadn't asked about Charlie once since I left. Not one text, not a call, nothing. But now, she hesitated. Daniel, she said carefully, you travel a lot. I'm the one who you cheated on. I said, still calm, in a house full of people who came to celebrate me with someone else's fiancé. And then you lied about it, covered it, minimized it, and negotiated the cleanup like a PR firm prepping a press release. You didn't just break trust. You turned it into strategy. She sat back, her cheeks flushed slightly. Jacob cleared his throat. If we could keep this too. You can stay quiet, I said, not looking at him. This part isn't legal. It's personal. I turned to her again. I don't want the house or the car or the stupid espresso machine your mother gave us. I don't even care about the joint account, but I'm not leaving Charlie with someone who sees loyalty as optional. A long silence, then finally, her eyes softened. Just for a second. Fine, she said. You can keep the dog. I nodded. I will. The rest of the paperwork went fast. No more outbursts, just signatures, page flips, and finalities. She signed everything without a word. As I stood to leave, I looked at her one last time. You know, I said, I used to think you were complicated. Now I see you're just someone who loves applause. Doesn't matter who's clapping. That landed. Her lips parted like she might say something, might try to reclaim the final word, but nothing came out. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out. Charlie was waiting in the car. His tail started wagging the moment he saw me. That wild, full-body wag only dogs can do. Like nothing in the world had gone wrong. Like love was still simple somewhere. I opened the door, and he jumped into my lap like he was trying to glue me back together. I let him, and for the first time in weeks, I exhaled. The first night back in my apartment felt like entering a place that had been waiting for me to wake up. Not the apartment Ashley and I shared. I let her keep that one, mostly because I didn't want to scrub the scent of her betrayal out of the walls. This was the old place I kept when we first started dating, a one-bedroom above a bakery. Floors that creaked like they had something to say, and windows that opened to a view of the city that wasn't beautiful, but honest. No skyline, no curated sunsets. Just rooftops, rust, and people living real lives. Felt like mine again. Charlie trotted from room to room, sniffing corners, tail flicking like he was inspecting the perimeter. After a full recon, he dropped next to the couch with a heavy sigh and fell asleep. Just like that. Dogs are brilliant like that. They don't overthink peace. They just claim it. I stood in the doorway for a while, taking it all in. There was no noise. No staged arguments. No Cold War over phone chargers and grocery lists, and which of us was pulling more weight. No shadow of a woman who smiled with her mouth and not her eyes. No double life echoing from another room. Just silence. But it wasn't empty. It was clean. The next morning, I opened the email I'd been avoiding. The one from Maya, Nathan's ex-fiancée. She'd sent me a recording. Not of the affair. Of her final confrontation with him. Out of respect, I hadn't planned to listen, but curiosity has teeth. The audio started with the door slamming, heavy breathing. Her voice came first. You lied. You lied to me and to her, and worst of all, you lied like it was a reflex. Like it was oxygen. Nathan didn't say much. A few pathetic protests, a weak attempt to flip it, to say she had become distant, that Ashley understood him in ways Maya didn't. That's the line that stuck because it's the same thing Ashley said to me. You didn't see me. She did. I paused the recording. They were mirror images. Two people running from stillness, addicted to the thrill of being chased, of being wanted in fragments, of being adored for the version of themselves they curated for someone new. The real connection was never real. It was just whoever hadn't gotten close enough to see the rot yet. Later that afternoon, I posted the ad. Not for revenge, for closure. It was a short listing on a private neighborhood forum, not public, not messy. Just a photo of the espresso machine. Barely used, sleek and expensive for sale. A machine that does everything it promises and still finds a way to leave a bitter taste. Make an offer. I'm done pretending it belongs in my home. The offers rolled in fast. Some joked, some were curious. One guy even wrote, "Damn, who hurt you?" I didn't answer, but I read that message 5 times. The answer was simple. She did. And then she kept doing it. With every lie that followed, every manipulation, every rewrite of the truth, as if reality was just a draft she could edit. But not anymore. The finality of it all didn't crash in like a wave. It settled slow, heavy, like dust after a demolition. You don't realize the building's gone until the air clears, and the sun starts hitting places it never reached before. That's what this part of my life feels like now. Sunlight on untouched corners, peace I didn't realize I was allowed to have, and the sound of Charlie snoring on the rug like a reminder that not all love is conditional. 2 weeks after the papers were signed, Ashley tried to rewrite the ending again. Came in the form of a dinner invitation. No joke. A handwritten card delivered to my mailbox, like this was some Jane Austen chapter instead of the aftermath of betrayal. Cream-colored stationery, cursive. No perfume on it, which surprised me. Honestly, I half expected it to reek of the same designer scent that still lingered in the guest room she defiled. The note read, "Dinner. Just us. No lawyers, no blaming. One final conversation, face to face. I think we owe each other that." I stared at it for a long time. Each other? Like I hadn't already paid more than I should have. I wasn't going to go. That was my first instinct. Leave it. Let silence be the only answer. But something in me itched. Not for closure. Not for kindness. For confirmation that she was still who I thought she was. I chose the place, a quiet Italian place downtown. One she'd always dismissed when we were married. Said it was too ordinary. I picked it on purpose. She arrived 12 minutes late, of course. Same performance as always. Hair effortless, outfit curated for subtle power. She wore a soft green blouse she knew made her eyes pop. I wondered if she practiced her entrance in the mirror. She sat across from me like we were old friends. No apology. No hesitation. "So," she said, unfolding her napkin like this was brunch. "How have you been?" I didn't answer. She gave me that little smile, the one she used on people she thought she could steer. "I wasn't expecting you to say yes," she continued, "but I'm glad you did." "I didn't come to talk about your feelings," I said. "I came to hear what you tell yourself when you look in the mirror every morning." That rattled her. A flicker of real emotion. Just for a second, then she masked it. "Daniel," she said softly, "I didn't ask for any of this to happen." "Yes, you did," I said. "Piece by piece. Message every excuse, every time you looked me in the eye and lied." Her mouth tightened. "I wasn't happy," she said. "And instead of saying that, you chose to burn everything behind my back. Not because you had to, because it was easier than being honest. Because you liked the attention." She leaned forward, her voice suddenly sharp. "You think you were perfect? You were checked out for months. You didn't see me. You were always busy with your next big thing, always talking about stability and planning and future-proofing. I was already a ghost in your world. No, I said. You were safe. You had loyalty with no expiration date, and you couldn't stand how boring that felt. The silence after that stretched. She looked down at her wine glass, swirled it. I loved you, she said. At the beginning. I know, I replied. But the ending matters more. She exhaled like someone finishing a performance and stepping off stage. This wasn't supposed to blow up like this, she said. You were supposed to look the other way like most husbands do. And that was the realest thing she said all night. I nodded, almost respectfully. I think you finally told the truth. She tilted her head. So what now? You want me to disappear? No, I said. You already did. The check came. I paid it without asking. She didn't even reach for her purse. Never did. As we stood to leave, she placed a hand on my arm. Not tender, not pleading, just possessive, like touching something she used to own. You'll miss me, she said. I looked her dead in the eye. I already don't. She walked out first. Of course she did. Always the last word. Always the final image. Her heels clicking into the night like punctuation. I stayed a moment longer, then I left, and I didn't look back. The silence after that dinner didn't feel like peace. It felt like the final breath before a long exhale. I wasn't haunted by her anymore. Not exactly. But there was a lingering presence, like smoke that clings to your jacket long after the fire's been put out. You know it's over, but the smell, the memory, it doesn't leave so easily. That night I walked home. Didn't drive, didn't call anyone. I just walked, taking the long route through streets I hadn't touched since the beginning. Past the coffee shop where I once waited for her for 40 minutes while she ran late from a meeting. Past the bookstore where I bought her that first edition she never read. Past the bench where I sat one afternoon, holding the engagement ring for 2 full hours, trying to convince myself she was the one. Memory is cruel like that. It doesn't show you the highlights. It shows you the exact frame before everything turned. When I got home, Charlie was waiting at the door, like always. I knelt down, buried my hand in his fur, and whispered, "We're almost done." Because it wasn't over yet. There was still one thing left to do. Ashley's mother reached out the next morning. A call, not a text. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity has its own gravity. Her voice was soft, controlled, too controlled. "Daniel, I don't want to take sides," she began, which, of course, meant she already had. "She's been struggling," she said carefully, avoiding the word. "Destructive. You were a good man to her. I think you still are." I let her talk. I didn't know her pain, but I wasn't going to pretend. When she finally asked, "Is there anything I can do to help fix this?" I answered honestly, "You can stop helping her escape the consequences." Silence. Then she whispered, "That's what her father said too." I ended the call, not out of disrespect, but out of finality. Ashley's family wasn't my war. I wasn't going to let them keep one foot in both worlds. But hearing that she burned bridges even closer than mine, that she was starting to run out of people who'd lie for her, that mattered. That same afternoon, I got a message request on Instagram. A girl named Elena. Profile private. Mutual friend, Maya. The message was short, chilling. "She did it to my brother too, 2 years ago, while still married to you. He didn't know. He thought she was separated. He found out and left the country. He still hasn't come home." I read it twice, then I sat in the silence and just let it settle. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern. This was a woman who built entire parallel lives, who shape-shifted based on her audience, who wore trust like a costume and took it off the second the lights went out. And somehow, I had been the most stable thing in her chaos. The background prop in the drama she wrote, directed, and starred in. I didn't respond to Elena. I didn't need more. I'd seen enough. So I did the only thing left. I wrote the letter. Not for her, for me. One page, ink on paper, no edits, no filters. Ashley, there will be no memoir, no documentary, no final speech to explain away the wreckage. You cheated. You lied. You manipulated. You tried to turn my grief into your shield. You rewrote the story while the ashes were still warm, and when the truth stood too tall, you tried to pretend it was just perspective. But the truth doesn't bend that way. I loved you. The real kind. The boring kind. The kind that shows up when you're sick, pays bills on time, remembers how you take your coffee, and sits through 5 variations of the same story just to see you smile. You needed applause. I offered devotion. Those aren't compatible currencies. I won't drag your name through the dirt. I won't scream into the void or throw stones from the digital rooftops. But I will heal, quietly, completely, and far from you. We are not two sides of the same tragedy. You are the cause, and I am the one who lived. I sealed it. Didn't send it. Just folded it into the drawer beside my bed, not for revenge, for memory. It's been 3 months. Long enough for the calls to stop. Long enough for her name to slip from the mouths of mutual friends. Long enough for the, "Hey man, I heard what happened," text to fade into silence. That's the thing about public betrayals. They burn bright, loud, fast. Then everyone moves on. Everyone except the ones who bled. I didn't move on. I moved forward. There's a difference. Forward is slower, more intentional. Just waking up one morning and realizing the first thought in your head isn't about her. It's walking past the bakery without wondering if she ever misses the smell of warm bread on Sunday mornings. It's standing in front of the mirror and recognizing your face without her story written all over it. Charlie and I have our own rhythm now. Morning walks, evening routines. He waits by the door when I leave, but never panics. Somehow, he knows I'm not the one who disappears without explanation. I started seeing someone. Not seriously. Not yet. She's kind, doesn't ask for more than I have. She doesn't flinch when I go quiet. She listens, not with that performative interest Ashley mastered, the aha nod while already mentally replying to someone else's message, but with real stillness. Like what I say matters. Like I do. She doesn't know the full story. Maybe one day, but not now. Not because I'm hiding it, because I refuse to give Ashley the power to enter this new part of my life. She's a chapter, not the whole book. A sharp one, yes, but closed. Trevor reached out last week. We grabbed a drink. He asked if I ever watched the footage again. I told him no. Good, he said. Truths aren't for repeating. Then he handed me something, a flash drive. I raised an eyebrow. He shrugged. Just in case she ever forgets what she did and tries to make you the villain. I didn't take it. Just pushed it back across the table. She knows, and more importantly, I know. That's enough. He nodded like he understood. That's the thing people don't talk about after betrayal. The moment you stop needing revenge. When you stop hoping they'll suffer because you realize they already are. Ashley lives in a constant loop now. A life of half-truths and curated smiles. Always performing. Always searching for the next person who hasn't seen behind the curtain yet. That's not freedom. That's a cage with mirrors on all sides. And me? I got something she never will, stillness. Not happiness, not yet. That's a longer road. But peace? Yeah, that I have. So, to anyone reading this, stuck in the thick of it, feeling the sting of betrayal cut deeper than you thought you could bear, let me tell you something no one told me at the start. It's not your fault she changed. It's not your responsibility to fix what she broke. And you are not weak for loving someone who lied well. But you are strong for walking away when the truth finally stood naked in front of you. You don't need to set the world on fire to start over. Sometimes, all you need is to walk out, close the door quietly behind you, and never go back.